Resident Evil Netflix trailers that have come out. Before we get into it, I can't show any footage from the trailers. I can't react to the trailers because at the moment, copyright laws and stuff on YouTube are going crazy. So I can't do that. I'm just going to be talking about the trailers and what my thoughts and opinions are on them. So yeah, as for promoting Netflix or Crunchyroll or, Adult Swim, both those companies as well as Netflix can go fuck themselves. The only promotion you're going to get is negative feedback from me. So let's move on to this series and the trailers. And I'll start off by saying the good things are the monsters. The CG is vastly better than the older films or the recent live-action film. We get to see a Cerberus again. We get to see a gravedigger or something that's like a gravedigger. It's a worm of some sort. It looks like a giant caterpillar, and for some strange fucking reason, it has graffiti on its back. This is the weirdness starts here, definitely. We get a licker again. What else? I think we get to see like a tyrant type of creature. I don't know. And yeah, we get to see a giant spider, which, it didn't look that great. It didn't actually look like the spiders from the series, to be totally honest with you. It just looked like a giant CG spider. But still, I guess that we've got those in there. It's pretty cool. We get to see a rat freaking out and mutating, due to T-virus, sort of like infection. And that's about it. That's the only things I can remember. Like I said, the weirdness starts with the graffiti worm. We get a CGI teddy bear. That's like the mascot for Umbrella. It's fucking weird. It doesn't make any sense. It's in Resident Evil. What's it doing in Resident Evil? And it says something like, oh, take your joy and stuff like that. And then it makes me think of We Happy Few, that crappy game that came out, We Take Joy. Shit, what else? Lance Reddick is Lance Reddick. He's playing Wesker, but he's literally playing Lance Reddick as usual. Great actor, great in Horizon Zero Dawn, great in John Wick, but there's only so many times you can see Lance Reddick playing that sort of character. He's not really bringing much range to the table. Great actor and all, but it's Lance Reddick. So he's playing Wesker, so yeah, make of that what you will. I've already spoken about this sort of stuff before, in previous videos, so go and watch those. But yeah, great actor, just not Wesker, let's just say that. We've got his daughter's Billy and something else, can't remember. It shows you that it takes place in New Raccoon City. And it borrows heavily from the older Anderson films, I think, for some reason. I don't know why. Everything looks almost like the Anderson films, like all the labs and stuff. When the Cerberus runs towards the camera in the last shot of the first trailer, it looks like it's in the kennels from the first Resident Evil movie, the original one. Jesus, what else? I'm trying to think now. Oh, so yeah, it takes place in New Raccoon City, and then it takes place in London. Some strange reason, in like 2043 or something. I can't remember exactly, but it's in the future when one of his daughters has grown up. So I take it the other daughter's dead or something, or being experimented on. The music choice, just like Welcome to Raccoon City, doesn't fit Resident Evil tonally. I don't really know how to process this. Like, I said before, I said in one of my videos, I think if Resident Evil keeps getting dragged sort of under the bus, dragged in the mud, I'm kind of done with the series, but I have to cover it because I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. Like, I'm still going to watch this series because of morbid curiosity, no pun intended. But yeah, I'm going to watch this just to see what it's about, what it's like. But I already know that I'm not going to like it. I already know this, I watched Welcome to Raccoon City, and half of me was kind of happy with it, and the other half of me just disliked the whole thing. And it's the same with Resident Evil 8, and it's the same with Infinite Darkness, and on and so forth. I mean, Infinite Darkness committed the worst sin, and that's that Leon and Claire have a fight. They have some weird fight towards the end of it. What? Why? You needed some drama between the two characters? I don't get it. Okay, so with these trailers, I'm trying to think of things that are in the trailer. There's a bit where she chainsaws a zombie. That reminded me of Evil Dead. I've seen it before in Evil Dead, so great, whatever. We've got this like drone that's firing at one point. It's very Umbrella, I guess. Almost reminded me more of Metal Gear Solid, but anyway. We get a look at, a lot of labs, and they look very similar to the labs in the old Anderson films. We get the destroyed London, the apocalyptic looking London, and that reminded me of 28 Days Later. The story is probably going to be like The Walking Dead. The zombies They looked alright, I guess. Not as good as the zombies from the last live action film, from Welcome to Raccoon City. I've got to be honest. That's one thing that I really did like about that film, was the zombies, when they're sort of like, mutating into zombies. I thought that was a very clever idea and stuff, and I thought they looked decent, definitely. Very schlocky, and that's what I want my zombies to look like. But yeah, with this series, I don't know, it's borrowing from so many things. That's the problem. It's got this weird, like, Wesker plot line with his daughters and things like that. He's in a boardroom, which reminded me of the old films, the Anderson films, where he's talking to, I think, Excelligione, or the Excelligione of this world. That's who I think that woman with the dark hair is. The one that's like, oh, we could put a warning label on the packaging. Like, shut up. Do you know what I mean? Like, trying to be funny and stuff. It just doesn't work. It's, I'm already sort of not invested. So, yeah, he's talking to them about there's a pill that they could, Joy is a pill that could stop depression, anxiety, and the rest of it. It's a miracle pill, essentially, and, they want to distribute it, but it has the T virus in it. Apparently, how? I don't. Who fucking knows? It has the T virus in it, and apparently it can transform things and people into monsters. And, I just see, there's a bit in it where she revs up a chainsaw, she chainsaws a zombie in the neck, and I just, I thought, that's Evil Dead. So it's borrowing, like, this isn't even original, that's the problem. It borrows from loads of other things, it steals it, dumps it in this film. There's even a bit that looked like one of the Resident Evil films where they're all standing on the White House. I can't remember which one it is. Hordes of zombies and monsters coming up after them, and it ends. Remember that cliffhanger? If you've seen that film, it's dreadful. But and that was one of the better Paul Anderson Resident Evil films. But yeah, there's a bit in this trailer that reminded me of that. But they've got like fire and torches and things just coming after them, and they're in this sort of like stronghold, and the way it's framed and stuff look just like the films. It just, I don't understand Capcom. I don't get it. I don't understand. Why are you giving the rights to this iconic franchise to these idiots? I don't know what they're doing with it. They don't know what they're doing with it. Don't give me that bullshit about, oh well, it's a different take. Like, as a fan, I don't want to see a different take. I want them to. They already had a great premise for a show, and that was Arklay. Go and watch Arklay. There's a YouTube clip of it. It was a great premise for the show. It was a prequel to the series, to the video game series. It worked. That's why the first Resident Evil film, the original, kind of works, because it's like a prequel. You don't have to actually sort of put it in the canon of the games. It can still be like a prequel or something that happened, somewhere else. The Umbrella had this other facility, and, it kind of works. It's still a bad film, but it kind of works. But yeah, the Arklay series looked really good. It was about an investigator. He was searching clues regarding Umbrella, and it ends with him sort of bumping into a zombie in this house. And I thought, or it's like this small mansion. And I thought that was great. It looked really promising, really good, and and now we've got this. So I don't get it. I don't get Capcom. I don't understand them. They're really running it into the ground. Like, at this point, anything that's separate from the games, I guess you could say, they're running into the ground. But then I wasn't a big fan of Resident Evil 8. It was very disappointing. It had like Final Fantasy elements to it. That the end boss, to be specific. I understand how you've got a template for something so good like the Resident Evil series, and you can just screw it up. You can just fuck it up, and mess about with it to the point where it doesn't even resemble what it used to resemble. And I know people are going to say, well, that happened when Resident Evil 4 came out. Cool. But I'd still take something that was based on Resident Evil 4 over this any day. Because Resident Evil 4 still had those horror elements. Yes, it was very different. It was vastly different from what had come from what had come before. But it was still cool with what it did. I still ended up liking the game. It took me a while to get into it, and actually end up appreciating it and liking it. But once I did. I wasn't a lover of that game to begin with. I got to be real with you, I wasn't. And then over time, I understood why it was so good and why people were liking it. But yes, it did change the formula, and it did kind of destroy sort of that old school Resident Evil, whatever it had. It was that old school Resident Evil vibe and feeling and magic, and it destroyed that, definitely. But it still did something in its own right that it did well. And if things had carried on sort of like Resident Evil 4, following that similar template, it would have been cool. Then Resident Evil 7 came out, and that was impressive to an extent. You know, it was cool. There wasn't as many monsters as previous games, and the story was a little bare bones, but I liked it. I liked it for what it was. So that kind of brought the survival horror back. But it was in first person, and it wasn't in like this gothic mansion or this around this gothic architecture. There wasn't like this massive underground lab. So, you know, I like the fact that it switched it up, definitely. And it did bring it back to survival horror. But my point is, Resident Evil was so far removed from what it was in the 90s. You know, it's making me miss the 90s games and the 2000s, the early 2000s games with mid 2000s games with like the Resident Evil remake and Zero, and you know, when 4 released, and it's making me miss those, you know, those days of Resident Evil, like the old era of Resident Evil, and I think that's the best eras, definitely. Let's just put this straight. This is a series based on Resident Evil that has a CGI teddy bear. I remember when I heard that they were going to have an AI in the original film, and I didn't like that because it wasn't part of, you know, Resident Evil's canon. It wasn't part of the style of Resident Evil. But I ended up liking it, you know. I thought it was kind of clever. With this, it's a CGI teddy bear, and it's annoying as fuck. This isn't Chucky. This isn't, you know, Critters. This isn't some sort of weird horror thing that you can do what the fuck you want with. It's an IP that already has an established fan base that people already love. And what are you doing with it? You know, you're stealing ideas from other things that have had zombies in it 28 days later, etc., etc. And then you're rolling with the Resident Evil name, and it doesn't resemble Resident Evil at all, other than the monsters. You know, and one of them has graffiti on it, which is fucking weird. It looked way too action heavy as well, and I know people can say, oh, that's weird of you to say, it's going to keep it entertaining. Yeah, it will, but the point is, it doesn't look like it's carrying an interesting narrative or telling a good story of any kind. I was going to say deep, but it's not going to be deep, but, you know, it's relying on the action set pieces, the monsters, like, just, you know, I'm just frustrated. I'm frustrated because it's so easy to adapt Resident Evil, especially with the series. You know, it would have cost a lot less to make than this series looks like it's cost. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why you keep fucking it up. Hollywood keeps fucking up. Oh, I forgot, because it's Hollywood. But why are Capcom allowing this shit? Because at the end of the day, they don't care anymore. They don't care about Resident Evil, about the fans. It's just a money maker, like Metal Gear Solid was for Konami. And I don't want to admit it, and I know people don't want to hear it, but it's a sad truth. They don't care. This is a money spinner for them. It's a money maker. The more money they can get from these shows and these crappy films and just everything else, you know, they're gonna get it. They're gonna go and they're gonna get that money until it dies. Eventually, it'll die. People will just be pissed off. Like, even fans that have found the series through Resident Evil 4, 5, even they're probably pissed off right now. Do you know what I mean? And it's just terrible. Like, this whole show looks terrible. This series looks terrible. Netflix are shit, and the sooner they disappear, the better. Sorry, it's the truth. You know, this is a company that they host films from known sex offenders, like the director of Jeepers Creepers, the person who created Cuties. Like, this shit was on their streaming service. They allowed it, and then they want to pull people's channels for promoting them. Like, excuse me, Netflix, what are you doing? Like, people are leaving you. People are literally leaving your streaming service because you're trying to pull a fast one recently. You know, with the whole, well, you can only have one person in your household who can watch our service, and then everybody else gets charged. Fuck off, okay? That's why people are leaving. When it all comes down to it, your service just isn't worth the hassle, and people could do without it. That's the truth. So if anyone's watching from Netflix, that's the truth. I could lose Netflix tomorrow and not give a shit. With stuff like this that's coming out, I don't give a shit. Castlevania, that's a different story, the new Devil May Cry anime. Cool, but I'll watch it somehow. You know, it will get released eventually on Blu-ray, and I'll buy it. I could do without your service. That's the truth, and a lot of people can, and that's why you're seeing people dropping off in huge numbers. And then you want to claim channels for copyright and, you know, and strike them and all this other stuff. You need all the promotion you can get. even if it's negative like this, you need all the promotion you can get at this point. As for coming out with this series, it's something that's dear to my heart, the Resident Evil series and the franchise. I call it a franchise. I wish Resident Evil still wasn't a franchise, because this is what's got it in the shit it is in today. Like I said, after the Resident Evil remake, I think that's where things started to decline. Resident Evil 4 was its own thing, so I always treat it separately to the older games, the older generation of games. I think after Resident Evil 0 and remake, I think that's where it declined. Definitely for me, that's where the magic kind of disappeared, if I'm being honest with you. So it's a shame. It's a massive shame. It's kind of like the Jurassic World films are never going to be as good as Jurassic Park, are they? They're never going to be as good as that film, and that was a film of its time, and everybody that got to see it, when they were young, they grew up with this film, and it just has that magic. It has that special place in everybody's heart, and I think that's the same with the older Resident Evil, the older generation of Resident Evil games, for me personally. So anything now is just, I don't know. I don't think, as I feel, this is my feelings towards it, I don't think there's anything that's ever going to recapture that magic. The Resident Evil 2 remake got very, very, very close to it. But, in terms of films and other media that are coming out regarding it or based on it, and future games, I'm not as interested as I once was. I still like covering Resident Evil, whether it be old or new, because it's Resident Evil and it's my favourite series of all time. So I need to share my thoughts and opinions like this on this series. I need to share my thoughts and opinions as a fan, as a long-time fan from 97, or yeah, it was 97 when I first played Director's Cut. It's something that I like to talk about, whether it be negative or positive. So it is what it is. This series looks trash, straight trash. It's horrible. I'm gonna watch it. I'll give you guys my opinions on the whole series once I've binged it, just like I did with the Shenmue anime. But I can't see it being very good. I'll be honest with you. No, I can't see it being good at all. Right here and now I'm saying it, it's not going to be good. Like, the action looked alright, but it's borrowing from loads of different horror franchises. So yeah. In terms of something being based on Resident Evil and carrying that name, this just isn't worthy to me, and it's disappointing. So another disappointment. I wish Capcom would treat this series with a bit more respect, but they're not going to at this point. I have lost faith in them treating Resident Evil with any respect. So it's disappointing all round. Let me know what you guys think about the trailers in the comments section down below. Yeah, well, I don't know what Resident Evil news I'll be bringing you soon. There's going to be a point in time where I go back and I play all the old games and relive, the great era of Resident Evil, definitely. So look forward to those. Other than that, I don't know what else to sort of cover Resident Evil wise, other than this crap series that's come out, the trailers, or another shitty film, or this is all stuff to do with Resident Evil, so I cover it. But in terms of having some good Resident Evil news, there's not much on the horizon. I've heard Apocalypse, has been leaked here and there. Sounds interesting. Apparently it might star Jill. It's just hearsay though, and rumour at the moment. The DLC that was supposed to come out for Resident Evil 8, the free DLC, haven't heard nothing, neither hide nor air of that, so don't know what's going on with that. I thought it would be interesting because we get to play as Ada, I think, in one of the DLC packs. But yeah, there hasn't been any word on that. No word. I expected it at the recent E3, I think. Has E3? Yeah, E3 has taken place, hasn't it? So I expected it to be announced at E3 or the PlayStation event. It wasn't. So it's kind of very disappointing at the moment. They're just treating the series like crap. Like, they really are, and they're thinking they're going to get the same Paul Anderson money from these films and this series. But the film showed, Welcome to Raccoon City, I don't even think it broke even. I could be wrong. So it shows that people are losing interest now. And again, all they're going to be stuck with is the fans, the true Resident Evil fans. And we're not gonna hold you up this time, because you keep dragging it under a bus. You keep dragging it through the mud. So just know that a lot of this passion for the games, the series, the story, the lore, and a lot of the negativity aimed towards this series, or the last film, or the last Paul Anderson films, or the CG films, or whatever you know, Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 6, you know, it comes from a place of love for the older generation of Resident Evil games. So I'm not high on myself as a Resident Evil fan. I'm not stuck up. I just don't like what I'm seeing. That's what I'm trying to convey in this video. I don't like what I'm seeing. It doesn't look like Resident Evil to me, but it carries a Resident Evil name. It's as simple as that. Why is it carrying the Resident Evil name? Because Capcom allowed it. They gave the rights to whoever, to Netflix, to Constantin Films again. You know, it goes on and on and on. So I'm just not happy with what I'm seeing, and YouTube's a place for me to vent, definitely, and for a lot of us to vent. It's not hard to make a series that's based on the first game. It really isn't. And then maybe make a series based on the second game and the third game. It would fit so perfectly into a series format, definitely. You know, finding clues, puzzles, you know, having Chris and Jill working throughout the mansion, taking place in different episodes, and fighting the Yawn and things like that. It would have worked great. They have the CGI to make Yawn or Neptune or Plant 42. They have the CG there, so it would have been cool, and it would have been a slow burn as opposed to this Paul Anderson looking, you know, action fest. So yeah, I think they're blatantly trying to take from Resident Evil 5 and 6, definitely, because they're just hung up on that now. They're just hung up on the action-orientated Resident Evils. Capcom are just, I don't know what they're doing at this point. Like I said, Resident Evil 8 turned out the way it did because feedback from people was that Resident Evil 7 was too scary. Really? Okay. So then they made Resident Evil 8, a weird Bloodborne meets steampunk, Final Fantasy elements abomination of a game. It's still fun in some ways. Part of me liked it, part of me disliked it. I don't know. But yeah, that was Resident Evil 8. That was my take and my opinions on it. So, you know, it had werewolves in it. It's weird, man. It's weird what they're trying to do with this series and this franchise at this point in time. But anyway, let them carry on. Let's see what the next abomination is that they bring out, or they commission, or they give the rights to get made. Let's see what it is. Till next time, I'm SystemCheck66. By all means, go in the comments section and let me know what you think of these trailers, and sound off on everything Resident Evil. Subscribe to the channel if you like me as a content creator, and also smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. So I've been SystemCheck66. Until next time, take it easy. Peace.